Hello? Okay. Okay, yeah, I'll let you know. All right, cool. All right, man. All right. Yeah, what's going on, man? What are you doing? What manga contest are you doing? Is this, I think. Did you tell me about this before? I vaguely remember something about this, I think. If you want to come on the stream to talk about it, if it's easier, you can. I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to. Well, that's interesting. So you gotta, right? That's actually a good practice, even if you don't win. That's as an artist, especially making comics or manga, you gotta learn how to tell a story with your art. So if you can do that as an artist, you make your life easier as a writer. But yeah, that's like the big key with a lot of like like the comic art that you gotta be able to show like time and progression and be able to tell a story. Like, there's a great book. So you know what? Hold on a second. I'll show it to you. This book right here, Six Gun. It's by Colin Bunn and Brian Hurt, but it's a good book. But there's a when you said that there's an entire chapter in one of there's like 6 volumes of this book. One of the chapters there's no dialogue at all, and it's just all up to like basically. Well, I mean the writer's still writing it, but the artist, it relies so heavy on the artist making sure that you can tell the story, especially with being no dialogue there, and you're able to tell what's happening going forward. So yeah, that's actually. She sounds like fun. They give you parameters for that, or you're just making up your own story? Oh, nice, cool. Well, I haven't announced anything yet, and I guess this is kind of an announcement, whatever. But in when is it? In January or not January? Yeah, January. I did it last year, but it was only like me that basically did. I think like one other person in the Discord did it. But I had this idea like 2 years ago when Stan Lee died about how like how there's like drawing prompts, like you have like Inktober, for instance. You know what that is, Inktober, obviously. I'm sure most people know what that is. But I had an idea, and I was like, how is it that I got into comics so late, and I'm like, how has nobody thought of this idea, especially after since he passed away? I'm like, so I came up with the idea of Stanuary in January, where every day, I'll come up with prompts for every day, a different character that Stan Lee created, and then people can use those as prompts to draw every day. So I did it last year. Nobody really caught on, and I don't know if you know who Peter DeLuca is, aka Pad. He's on Twitter. He's on YouTube. I saw him through Ichthus a couple months back. But me and him have been talking, and I told him about the idea on one of his streams, and he loved it. So he's going to be on board with me, and we're going to start promoting it in December. Start like really pushing it out there. I'm like, how is it? Because we wanted to tag Marvel in it. Get everybody on board to do their art and tag Marvel. See if we can get Marvel like at least catch wind of it. Because it seems like something that'd be kind of interesting, especially for artists out there, Marvel fans. And the way I did it last year too. I mean, obviously there'll be the some of the obviously well-known characters, but I was picking like a lot of random characters that like were obscure that he created because there's so many. Like Atuma or Tima. I was looking up some last night, and yeah, there's so many that he's created that he could do. So it has 3 themes. Well, explain to me how it goes. Like the 3 themes. Like what are the themes they gave you? Also, smile, anger, and hate are the themes, or haste. Smile, anger, and haste are the themes. 5 to 17 pages is kind of a lot. So that should give you plenty of time to tell a story within that. Just those 3, you could probably do an 8 pager with that. So yeah, they give you a lot of leeway. No, that's a good. It's kind of interesting. I'm getting like I keep, I got wanted to still keep wanting to do my own book, and I'm starting to write more now. So I think my art's gotten to the point where I can I can get it to look like how I see it in my head, or at least learning how to write a story that'll fit my art that I can tell instead of writing some like grand space opera where I'm trying to draw spaceships every panel. I could do that, but I'll probably be drawing for 10 years just getting 2 pages done. And plus, I still like doing the paintings. I'm still trying to get better at this stuff. And this was actually a part of Indietober. It's another drawing prompt like I just was talking about. It's for the indie people. If you want to join it, it's a Facebook group. It's called Indietober. We've been doing it the last 3 years. Travis Gibb and Chuck Pino set it up. But yeah, it's like a drawing. There's a different indie created character for every day of the month. But I don't know why. I got to tell Travis and them. I was like, I always wanted to do Inktober, but I like doing the indie one because you're drawing other people's characters. It's kind of networking a little bit more. But I always wanted to do Inktober. So I wanted to tell them, I was like, we need to move Indietober to like Indie November or something like that. It'd be nice to be able to push myself to have a different challenge like every month and actually stick to it and try to push myself to finish them. It's so hard to do though. I procrastinate too much. But hopefully, when I announce the Stanuary thing, I bought a green screen. I've had that for a while. But we're in my drawing space here. I bought like what do you call it, like a track for the ceiling to hang a curtain on, so I can hang the green screen and I can slide it. But I want to try to get a little bit better, do like a little video like thing for it, like a promotional video for it. I gotta learn how to edit videos. I can edit audio, that's what I went to school for, but I never did a video before. And now the only piece of advice that continues to help is anyone that's making anything and only break something else. I wanted to put it out of my reach. I wanted to pay for my successes with all my defeats. And if heaven was all that was promised to me, why don't I pray for death? Well, now it seems like the unraveling has started to soon. Yeah, awesome, man. I mean, like I said, I don't expect everybody to do every day. I know I probably won't be able to. I was actually thinking about after I do this, actually, because I want to do some paintings of them. It's either that or I start working right now on a collage of like all the characters for the month, which that's going to take me a while to do. So it's like either I start doing some of the prompts now or I do like a giant collage and just reveal it at the end if I can pull it off. Because I thought that'd be cool if I could actually do a piece with like all the characters we decide on. But I got to sit down with Peter to decide what characters we're going to do first. But that would be cool if I can actually do like 30 characters. try to do one of those collages and push myself to do that. And just work on that like all like 2 months straight. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna come up with like different like ways of doing it. I mean, you know, like I'm not gonna be too crazy at first, and when you have a character, you just draw them however, you know, you can do a headshot, whatever. I was thinking about coming up with like ideas too for like a day, being like the color green, and then finding any characters that have green in them that he created, and doing that way, just to kind of mix up the prompts. But I gotta talk to Peter about it. We're gonna go over it in December sometime, I think.
Touch the whole world on the sparkle that you think it lacks. Yes, you can stare into the abyss, but it's never right back.
Yeah, it's like last year, like when I was like nobody really was like that interested in it. I'm like, I get most people hate the mainstream right now, but people still like Stan Lee. That was a good song. I first heard this song when I was living alone in Missouri when I was 19. Well, I was living with my uncle, but he was gone a lot, but this song always reminds me of that time. So I always thought Incubus sucked, and then I heard this album, Morning View, and I'm like, no, they're not a shitty pop band. They're actually pretty damn good. I used to fall asleep to this song like almost every night. If you've never heard it before, I don't know how to exactly pronounce it, but it's the last track on the album Morning View. If you don't know it, yeah, dude, I could fall asleep to this song all the time. I saw him actually perform this live. It's like a Japanese instrument that it's the guitarist using in this song.
Was free from their homes long ago, lying face up on the floor of my vessel. I marvel at the stars and feel my heart overflow. Transition of the sun, I'm through. Shooting up the You done something wrong, even though you stay. Too much time lately, you've been gone. An illusion then so you go on your own. Town again, moving out, moving in. I break the news to all my friends, but they won't care. They'll just find another face to fall behind to take my place. To run way up past second base and just stand. Dreams circle on a summer night in a folding chair. Witches ringing around the moon, getting behind the show. Poison oak, poison ivy, dirty jokes flew right by me. Mama caroling up beside me, crying to herself. Walking daddy just come home, forget whatever he did wrong. He's in a hotel all alone. Dreams circle on a summer night in a folding chair. Still packing up my room by the direction. New sneakers on the high school porch, you try to be there. Breaking through the screen, breaking through the broken glass, broken vows. I'll be 18 4 years from now. With different friends in a different town, I'll finally be free. Call your boss on holiday, tell you why I moved away. Say everything's gonna be okay. Come see me. Dreams that go on a summer night in a folding chair. Daddy's howling at the moon, getting homesick. Keep lying Hearts breaking through the spring, to breaking the tree, breaking the tree, breaking the tree. You were just a baby when you made yourself a baby's mama. Floating on the Great Lakes, crushing beer cans with your man. Mother left you stranded, said you couldn't even stand the things you cared. Oh, darling, turn that thing around. You're the one bringing me down. Turn that thing around now. Ladies in the hotel lobby heard your shotgun wedding going on. Hate to be a stranger, but I know that I am questioning the same crowd. Don't know much about him, only how he falls around him when he talks. Oh, darling, turn that thing around. You're the one bringing me down. Turn that thing around now. Wake up every morning, wish you had somewhere to go, had something to show for it. Sitting on the sideline, just waiting for the wind to blow. Cooling on the scene like a horse in a stable. The brother got ill, tried to snatch a fat cable. I stepped back like it wasn't no thing. I punched him in the jaw with the tobacco ring. I had an ace in the hole when it came to that. Yo, see, it was cracking, you know I was strapped. Posse kept rolling, it was hard to get with them. So I stepped back and I'm butting my lead venom. They kept coming just like I figured. So I stepped back and started spraying the niggas. What a way to go out like a sucker, but I'm on track. Like a Long Island train that can't head up your mission. Suckers should be dissing. Always on my job like a snake, always hissing. Grabbing and tapping me like Luther Vandross. Take me to the bar with a drink and make a toast. Give the best wishes to the best MC. And when the spot is gone, hey yo, you know it's me. Cause I'm bouncing. Cause I'm bouncing. Because I'm bouncing. Cause I'm bouncing. Because I'm cooling at a party, no better yet disco. Head feeling better from a bottle of Cisco. Move. To crush your mind, sucker empty like Crisco. Give me the cure. Check 1, 2. Don't try to come off on me because you're new. You're treating me the Z to the D like a stepchild. Let me tell you, homeboy, you're living foul. MCs, you know who you are. On the fan like your posse, cause you a star. This is a year when the jokers are wild. When the fans are happy, you try to fight your style. I get hip to the scene before it happens. If it gets wild, then I'll start capping. But for now, since everything's calm, relate to the matter as I drop the ball because I'm bouncing. Cause I'm bouncing. Cause I'm bouncing. Cause I'm bouncing. Because I'm Cause I'm bouncing. Cause I'm bouncing. life in Japan. Wherever you go, wherever you land, say what this means to me. I'll do what I can. Impossible to me, a life in Japan. Fundamental problem, only the face. This is important, but I know you're not listening. Oh, I know you're not listening. This was still new to me. I wouldn't understand. Possible Germany, all life in Japan. This is what love is for. Be out of place. Gorgeous and alone, face to face. Don't love your problems that need to be erased. Nothing more important than to know someone's listening. I know you'll be listening. Springtime comes and the leaves are back on the trees again. Snappers are harder to see, my friend. Weeding out your weekend. Summer comes, gravity undoes you. You're happy because the lovely way the sunshine bends. Hiding in the deep end, weeding out your weekends. Candy left over from Halloween, a unified theory of everything. Love left over from lovers leaving, books they all know they're not worth reading. Sweet and sour cane and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Pleasure's my quick train. That motherfucker always fights with pain. Looking in my own eyes, hey Lord, I can find the love I want. Someone better slap me before I start to rust, before I start to decompose. Looking in my rearview mirror, looking in my rearview mirror, I can make it disappear. I can make it disappear. Have no fear. I like to start with burning and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Summer sweet and summer train and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Pleasure's my train. That motherfucker always finds sitting in my kitchen. Hey girl, I'm coming into dance.
Hey, what's going on, BMR Comics? What feed did it show up on your Twitter? I put it out to all my social media feeds. I'm just kind of curious which one was it.
I'm overcoming gravity. It's easy when you're sad. It's easy when you're sad. I like things like with pain and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Summer sweet and sour train and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Pleasures fight with pain. Just one note to make me go away. One note to launch you, no proof of me where I lay. Just one note to make me choke, one note that's not a lie. Just one note to cut my throat, one note to make me not. I like to strike with pain and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Summer sweet and summer train and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane.
Thank you. Hopefully it turns out good in the end. That's part of the song.
This morning, recognize the man in the mirror. Then I laughed and I said, oh, see me, that's just what I see. You're so strange as teeth, but they were my teeth. I was weightless, just quivering like some. I'm on the restroom. I can't tell you what the hell it was supposed to be, but it was on Monday, no Tuesday, no Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I said, who's this stupid crowd up in the bathroom sink?
I think I can start filling in the blanks now.
All we ever wanted was to be someone life was just like. All I wanted was just that. In my life, I'm the son of a gun. I could be 1,000 miles away, but still in me, what I see. I'm silly, that's just me. I'm silly, I come so straight, this head never was my style. I can't tell you what the hell it was supposed to be, 'cause it was a Monday, no Tuesday, no Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I said, who's this stupid guy up in the bathroom saying? But it was 14 days, I gotta say pretty good. But it was always a little It was always 1,000 miles away, while still in front of your face. Just like so sweet,
Oh, thanks, man. Oh, like I said, if I'm ever doing these, if you guys want to join, just let me know. It's always nice to talk to somebody. So I just listen to music sometimes. But...
The day I walked down the street, I used to wonder. Yeah, I shook my head and I made myself a bet. But it was all these things that I don't think I remember. Hey, how lucky can one man get? I brushed my shoes and I hung from the rearview mirror. Rise the admiration in a blind spot of regret. There was all these things that I don't think I remember. Yeah, that lucky can one man get? The day I walked down the street, I used to wonder. Yeah, scratched my head and lit my cigarette. But there was all these things that I don't think I remember. Hey, how lucky can one man get?
Thinking here. Up here, this is supposed to be like a whiter color, and I'm debating on if I just do it white or I got this metallic gouache I should try, which I've done before. Yeah, I'm learning more with the paint. See, this stage, it still kind of looks messy. I'm just kind of blocking in the colors really. The very last thing that I do on the paintings now that I've learned is that's where I go back in and make all the details and sharpen up everything. But it's the stages of painting that make it easier. It's just blocking in the colors and getting all that, where it's supposed to be, and then you can clean it up, especially with gouache, because it's so easy to like reactivate it and edit mistakes than it is like watercolor, because it lifts back up with a little bit of water. Okay, I think I'm gonna finish his face and a little bit of skin. He's got the liquid skin. I seriously need better lighting in this. I need like ceiling light in here on this little spot that I draw on. So using all these like lamps and table lights. All right. Get the right color blue. to, a second, I gotta find this tube of gouache. Let's try that. I get these two different kinds of like this Arteza gouache. It's got regular gray. It's got different colors. Some different colors come in like this pearl gray. There's regular gray and like pearl red. And they sparkle a little bit. They sparkle. Give it a shot. I never use it, so. But again, with gouache too, it's like when you put a layer of paint down, as soon as it dries, if it doesn't look good, you don't like it, you can go right back over the top with another layer of different paint, and it'll mask it pretty easy. Except I hate having to edit mistakes. It feels like a waste of time, but it's just part of it. It's all part of it. All right. I'm here with you. So I just found this little setup I have for my palette to hold it on my desk table. I got these clamps. Let me try to zoom in here. I got it clamped to the table, and I just did it, and I'm like, it kind of holds it up in the air too, so it's at a level surface. So I kind of lucked into that. It worked out perfectly. Really, with coloring, it's, I think all mediums, no matter what kind of art supplies you're using, paint or markers or whatever, the same thing is always told. It's, start in layers. Start laying, light to dark is the best way, especially if you're new to it. Gouache, you can work dark to light, but it's a little bit trickier. But the easiest way is light to dark. That way you can slowly build into it instead of trying to subtract paint away. Or color, I should say. But yeah, every time I see any kind of color videos, whether it be gouache, watercolor, markers, whatever, they always hear that replied or said all the time. A lot of people always they color in layers. It takes a little bit longer, obviously you want to try to work at a decent speed, but more important to get the thing done right than it is to get it done fast. That's why I've had to start teaching myself to do more, is be more patient with this, because I've always tried to rush paintings, like start doing it today, I got to finish it today. It's like, no, especially with like water-based paint, you got to give it time to dry and stuff. Sometimes some of these paintings take like a week. Just, I work on a little bit at a time here and there. I'm not always doing like live stream videos for this long, but sometimes during the week I'll take 20 minutes and just like do a little bit here and there. Even, like I said, even if it's like 10, 15 minutes, and you got, it's a little bit more progress. Every little bit counts. And I wish there was like a cure-all way to be like how to get through like those like days where you don't feel like doing shit. Like I wish there was like a quick all cure for that. But it's just training yourself mentally, and I'm not there yet. I still procrastinate a lot, and I got to get a lot better. I need to be a lot better. Getting up and doing stuff on days I don't feel like doing it. So the smart thing here would have been, instead of putting that blue first and working this gray around it, is I should have just done the whole thing in the gray and then just come in with the highlight of the blue. It makes it easier. After the paint dry, you can, like I said, you can go right over the top. But I didn't know what color I was using. Should have planned that out a little bit more, but it's all good. I'm just spending more time a little bit. This is, like I said, it's for Indie-tober. I did this, and I don't know, try to color them when I can. But since this is Nicholas Mueller's creation, and I did his character Sunchild for that little contest they had, so I figured I was like, well, if I'm doing this one again, why not do a full painting and I could put it up on the wall next to the Sunchild one I did. And then he's got that third character. I don't know the name of it yet, but it looks like an old Templar knight. And I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to do that one too to complete the whole cycle of characters. But yeah, no, he's got a. I gotta double check. I don't keep track of the indie books I've all ordered. Sometimes they just show up and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I bought that. I backed that one. And I think I backed Sunchild. I didn't get Demon Hunter Raven, but I think I got the package that gave me both, so I can at least catch up on what's going on. But yeah, there's some characters, some creators in the indie scene that are, they're doing things that, like, it's just like you feel like it's like this guy knows what he's doing. Like they're building something here, and like they got something here if they keep going with it. And I think Nicholas has got that, and Paul Tucker, with this world they're building with these demon hunters, and another one which I think most people know is Nandor Fox Schaefer. I just got his book Seasons, and yeah, I've read the first volume so far, and it was fantastic. I mean, I just, it was really relatable for me. So if you have read it, maybe you can kind of get it, but it was very relatable for me. I actually sent him a message joking around, being like, "Have you been following me around my life and taking snippets of things that have happened to me?" There's like a scenario in the beginning of the book that, I don't know. I think most of us, guys especially, probably have been through a similar situation. But when I when I read it at first, I wanted to joke with Nandor and be like, "Dude, who hurt you, Nandor? Who hurt you?" But yeah, that kid knows what he's doing, man. He knows how to write. And he understands the medium of concepts of comics and storytelling, and what to show and what not to, show not tell, or what is it, how to show and not tell. Like, because that's an art in itself when you're writing. I mean, you might just think that's the artist, but the writer's got to write that scene. So even if he's not adding dialogue, he's still writing that scene out. Usually. I mean, sometimes you see like the professionals, like a panel with Batman or something. I remember Tom King one time, he like shared like a panel. It was like Batman fights ninja, and then it shows like what the artists interpret from that. And it's like this huge battle scene, and all he wrote was Batman fights ninjas. I don't know. I find that to be kind of lazy, but I am. I guess I can. Because you are kind of choreographing a fight scene when you're writing. So I guess if you're working with an artist who's good at that, you know, let him handle the heavy lifting on those scenes, I guess. But I guess it just depends who you're working with and knowing their strengths. All right. Mm. Oh yeah, man, the indie scene. I was telling my buddy who was over here the other day about how like I mean Marvel and DC. Like I said, everybody can say they're collapsing, and yeah, they haven't been doing well in years, but I don't think they're ever going to go away. But indies are better than they've ever been throughout the history of comic books. I kind of feel lucky to at least start getting into comics at the time right when all that kicked off. Because I can actually still remember the exact time, like when it really got me was I was at work one night, and again I work nights, and this is right before Comicsgate really got formed. It was right on the fringes of it, and I remember seeing some article, and what probably was like CBR, because I was in the started following all the comic book stuff when I got into it, and it was this thing about um, diversity in comics or Richard Meyer, and about how like there's this Nazi who's like reviewing comic books, and I was like, holy crap! I was like, I gotta see this, because like you hear something like that, you're like, oh, I kind of gotta check this out. And then when I saw his videos, I'm like, well, I don't think he's a Nazi. He's just being an ass and just roasting books, but whatever. It's not doing anything like crazy. He's just talking shit. And that whole thing with him making his book, and I was learning about it in the moment of like the whole thing with that about how they're like, we'll make your own book, and then the crowdfunding thing with Jawbreakers took off. And whether you hate Comic Spade or not, it was still inspiring at that time for at least for me, somebody who was like not really inversed in the whole industry of what was really going on, to see an indie book when shatter these records for a comic book after being told, I'm sorry, you're not allowed in the mainstream. It was kind of like, holy crap, like talk about throwing a huge middle finger to the industry and being like, well, we just carved our own path. So whether you agree with Comicsgate or not, they did open that road for indie creators to now get more exposure and more of a look from people than they ever did before. I mean, and you can honestly, if nobody else's fault other really than the mainstream. I mean, if they hadn't turned off a large part of their fan base, they probably would have never gotten this way with the indie scene. So in a way, I guess it's kind of good. Because seriously, I mean, you're not restricted in the indie scene. You get to do what you want to do. So, and you can't blame anybody else. And which is funny when I see all the drama with people fighting. It's like, dude, this is comic books, man. Like, make your book. Like, your art will dictate how good you are. You yelling at people and telling them they suck isn't going to do anything. And again, nobody needs to be all kumbaya all the time. Everybody has their beefs with people, but there's so many stupid, petty arguments I see in the indie scene with creators. Sometimes it's just like, dude, you guys grow up. It's like if anything, take that as like a competitive edge, like in sports, like the Packers and Bears. Like look at somebody as your competitor and be like, okay, this guy, I don't like him. He just made this much money. I want to beat his record. Look at it that way. If anything, you'll both be benefiting yourself while trying to like beat the other guy. One second, I gotta text somebody here. Let that paint dry a second. I'm gonna do another layer of blue on the ribbon. I think it's part of his scarf. I don't know actually what it is. I know he's got a scarf here that looked a different color in the reference photo I saw. So, Nicholas, if you're watching, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, around 8 o'clock, I don't have work tonight, but my bosses are out of town, and they asked me to work, and I live so close. I told them I was like, why don't I just take the truck home? And that way, if the guy that I work with at night usually, if he gets busy, they can just call me, and I can get to any police call in our area in time. So I just got to get kind of dressed just in case I get a call because it is Friday night, so you never know. Yeah, I don't have any issues with Comicsgate either. As a group or a whole, I don't look at it like that. I still, you can call yourself Comicsgate. I'm still gonna like judge you individually on who you are, not because you're saying you're Comicsgate. I mean, like I said, it's calling yourself Comicsgate. It does open that door to you. I mean, people can be like, oh, well, it's just a small group of people. Well, who cares? I mean, if you're getting funded, if I, it's, the way I always said it is if I make a book and I have one backer and that one backer pays me $1 million and he's the only person that ever buys my book, I'm fine with that. I mean, yeah, I'd like more people to read my books, but at the same time, financially, it's like if one person wants to keep paying me for my material, like, then awesome. Yeah, so I don't look at it that way. I mean, again, there's plenty of guys in Comicsgate that are douchebags and plenty of guys in there that aren't. And chicks too. They always say, "Oh, they're anti-female." It's like, and yeah, there's not a lot of chicks, but I've seen plenty of girls that are part of that here and there. And I haven't followed Comicsgate like right when it started kicking off, when all that stuff went down with Brad years ago. That kind of like started souring me on the whole thing. Just like the following the streams because it started to be like every week was like, what's the beef of the week? Like, what's the new drama of the week? Which I guess I get in a way generates views or whatever, keeps the interest, but it seemed like it was just too much, too fast all the time. It's like I get having drama here and there, but it was like every week it was like a new thing. It just got so tiresome. Like nobody was like trying to come up with like new ideas for live streams. It just turned into these like draw streams and then talk shit streams. Which again, I haven't watched it in a while, so I could be way off on what's going on with it now. So hmm. Yeah, and the way I said with groups too, it's like until there's an actual group, like Comic Day, whatever, that is literally like trying to cause harm to somebody, and I'm not talking like financially, competitively. I'm talking like physically or whatever, emotionally, like getting personal with somebody over this stuff. Then there's a problem. That's when that group's become a problem. And like I said, I don't see Comicsgate as a whole, at least not recently. I still follow some on Twitter, but I don't see them like out there like maliciously attacking people. And again, I don't police everybody, so I can't sit there and speak for everybody's experience. But yeah, it's like, dude, just make your books. It's like when people in the industry were like so like fearful of Comicsgate. It's like, dude, if you're so confident in your art and what you're doing, then they should be no threat to you, right? And if they are a threat to you, that should be a sign that you need to start, buckling down. Because everybody looks at like, an outside threat as like, the end of their life. Like this is unfair. It's like, no, it's just the world. It's a competitive world. So when something else comes along that's newer and people are taking away from your sales, like try to reinvent your shit. Plenty of great, artists throughout the years in any medium have done that. They've adapted their shows over time and or changed things here and there on the spot. And I don't know, the ones I usually see fail are the ones that always cry that it's somebody else's fault why they this or that. And there are instances, I'm not going to say there's not. There have plenty of instances where somebody sabotaged somebody, but more times than not, when you see the whole story, it's usually just somebody just talking crap. All right, it's kind of hard to see the gray. Let me see if I can zoom in here. It's kind of, like I said, it's like a pearl grayish kind of. It's a little wet now. When it dries, it kind of glistens a little bit, like the light kind of reflects off it a little bit. It's hard to see on some of the pictures I take because when I use that or like gold or silver gouache, like when the light hits it, you could see it. When I'm here looking at it, like right in front of me, you could see it glistening, but it doesn't really come through on pictures as much. Yeah, and like, well, with your last comment that you said, Jake, too, is like when Comicscape started forming, it 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 felt like what Image was doing back in the day when they branched off and it created this new market and it generated a lot of excitement. Like that's what Comicscape did at first, especially when the crowdfunding first started with like Cyberfrog and that first wave, Jawbreakers and all that stuff. It was like holy crap! Like there is a huge interest like in this market that people haven't been able to like get, like they've been wanting and they haven't been able to get for a while. And it seemed like there was a starved market that was just waiting for something like that to happen. And some of them and the early ones weren't that good. I backed like the first couple ones that came out just because of that reason. Like I said, it seemed like a new Image thing. So it's like who knows? Like these books might in years from now, you never know. Imagine having the Spawn #1, like a Spawn #1 or a Walking Dead #1 that went for like $10,000. So it's like I wanted to get on some of these like first books that they were doing just in case. And then it seems like it's probably going to stick around. Doesn't seem like Comicscape's going to go away as long as like the books keep getting funded and they're generating you know fans. See, somebody brought it up years ago, and I think I agree with it too. Is like how are they going to sustain it? Yeah, they have a good market right now, but it's like you always want to grow. So you got to find a way to grow that audience because you're going to run out of people at some point, that have just been disinfected by the mainstream that come over. Well, how are you going to get new people in the comics gate other than getting new readers in the like DC or Marvel, unless you're just so confident that Marvel and DC will drive people away. But see, at that same argument, if you're like a new person in the comics and you go to get a DC Marvel book and you read it and you're like, this sucks, you're not going to know what Comicsgate is to go look for it. So I guess that doesn't really apply to help Comicsgate. But yeah, they need a better marketing tool to kind of generate more people into it. And maybe again, maybe they do. I'm kind of just speaking out of my ass here, but that's because I'm bored and I'm painting. All right. Yeah, yeah, that'd be a good idea. Maybe they have. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm sure some of them probably have tried to look into other revenues. I think I heard something of like different things they were doing like that like a while ago, but again, I haven't really been following it because I'm more focused on my own shit right now. But yeah, it's you think outside the box, like especially in situations like this, like you gotta really think outside the box. Like these guys that made a book called Voracious for Action Labs, I've talked about them before. They were the first interview I did on this channel, Marcus Son and Jason. Uh, their book Voracious, was about a chef. It dealt with food in a way. And one of the things that they did is they went to a butcher shop here in Chicago and had a comic book signing at a butcher shop, like a legit butcher shop, and they had like a big turnout. And they actually went back and did it a second time because they had such a good like turnout. And I was like, dude, that's like, and I remember telling them like, yeah, it's genius, like because now you're getting people that are going in there just to buy meat, and then they see this, and it could generate some interest in people being like, oh wait, the comic books, they still make comic books, and they're not superhero shit, which is like what I thought when I got into it. I always thought comics were just superhero stuff all the time, and then when I learned it wasn't, kind of opened my eyes to everything. Even though I read some superhero stuff, I've never been a big follower of the superhero crap. I mean, I watch the MCU, but reading wise, like I still have no huge interest. Like some characters, yeah, but as an overall whole, it's like I always like the image books and the independent stuff. Like I said, I always like that when creators have the freedom to tell the stories they want to tell. Then you can see how creative some people really are. Because I think some guys get away with just like taking over these like characters that are established, and you see it, and they ruin them. But sometimes these guys are just like okay writers, but they're on like a big character, and it's like they know how to tell like that superhero story, but like they're not good at like their own stuff. AKA, and I'm gonna say probably like Dan Slott. I don't think has he ever done anything on his own other than just like apparently ruining titles that he gets. I don't think I've met anybody that likes any books that he does. And I've never read them, but I don't think there's a single person that likes him. Which is just funny because it's like so many people don't like him. It's like, how is this guy still on these big titles? It's like, I remember back in the day when you like at a job and you didn't perform or you weren't like holding your own, like you got taken off things or fired. You didn't keep the job and or get promoted. That's what's crazy about some of this shit. And it's not just the comic scene; it's the whole world today. But the comics are a little microcosm of exactly what goes on in the world, of like how the entire world works, where you fail upwards, which kind of sucks because my whole life I've been failing downwards, and now everybody's getting passes and breaks. You bastards. Plus, the whole world's gone mad anyway, or insane, I should say. Actually, I take that back. I don't think the whole world's gone insane. I think the majority of the world is normal, and just it's allowed insane people on internet. And I think a majority of people just are just like they ignore it or they don't interact with it as much. So it feels like the crazies are taking over. But I think backs to the wall. I think there's probably more legitimate, normal people in this world that probably just roll their eyes like the rest of us at some of this crap. Like Demi Lovato saying calling aliens is like racist. We should say ET. It's like, oh, okay. Let's let's meet these ETs first, huh? Yeah, that was batshit crazy. Then again, she is a failed like celebrity, so she probably was just trying to say something insanely crazy to gen up any kind of press. Because the old saying, "What any press is good press," which is what I thought of initially when she said that. I'm like, dude, I bet you she is an idiot, but I bet you she's saying some of this stuff just to try to get people to like, can you believe what she said? It's like, I don't even see. It's like what's annoying about all that stuff too is I don't pay attention to celebrity stuff like ever. I could. give a shit. But it's like you can't avoid it. Like you just go on Twitter to follow stuff, and just like your feed is just filled with shit you're not even following, and you see these like headlines, and you're like, no way. Because I remember seeing the headline, I'm like, okay, this has got to be a joke. Then I open the article, I'm like, no, well, like, it is a joke, but not in the way that I thought. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to have the aliens show up. I always said, hopefully before I die, they show up before I die. Just so I could be like, it is real. As soon as I finish this ribbon, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna go on for a couple hours here, I think. Like I said, this is gonna be a painting. It's gonna take me a couple days, a little bit of time to finish. I'm kind of making it up on the spot. I don't really want to do with the background yet. I just did the blue underpainting in watercolor. This blue underneath it, that's watercolor because, like I was saying, gouache reactivates with water. So even if when you're layering over a dry area, you got to kind of work kind of fast. You don't want to fixate because it'll reactivate that underneath layer. But watercolor doesn't do that. I need to get casein. I've been watching like James Gurney videos, and he underpaints in casein, which is like it's like watercolor. It's milk based, but like watercolor, or it's like gouache, but it doesn't reactivate. It's opaque, but it doesn't reactivate with water like gouache does. So you can use it as an underpainting. He uses it with his gouache painting, so I think that might be a better paint to do an underpainting in. Then again, I don't really know. I'm still learning all that stuff. I'm trying to figure out, color theory and underpaintings and how to complement colors and what color underpainting I should use for what painting I'm going to be doing. This was just a pure guess because the character had a lot of blue in him, and I figured, well, a blue underpainting would probably help with the overall look. Again, I'm kind of learning in real time.
So hold on to them. I get sick of just about everyone, and I do my baby's home. I do my baby's home. 'Cause except for her, you know, 'cause I'm implied. I'll never, ever, ever be alone with this all in my baby's hand. Shining, shining, secret star in my baby's hand. In my baby's hand. I get sick of just about everyone that I my baby's home. Treat myself just like a tongue, I do my baby's hand. I do my baby's hand. 'Cause except for her, there just ain't nothing to latch on to. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I think I might call it because it's that time, right, Gunner? That's what I gotta deal with all the time when I draw. This little shit staring at me. All right, I'm gonna call it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and maybe I'll start streaming again maybe tonight if I start working on some more. Later.